Hello, everyone. Is everybody ready to start the weekend? I hope you are, because we do have some bad news to go over. But for the pre-show, we will be going over some better news. Kinda.
Mostly.
Welcome to the GNRO podcast pre-show. Oh, jeez. And now I've got myself in my ears. Okay, that was
I
weird.
had that too. That happened to me too. I forgot to mute the video.
So the first thing that we're going to get into, so basically if you have never come in live to a live recording, these are stories that didn't make the agenda, that either just basically got kicked out because of listeners or because of us or because of something else, or they barely squeaked out kind of thing. And so let's go ahead and start things up with I don't know if you actually saw this, but it made me cringe. So Niantic has officially announced their next game. If you guys don't know Niantic, they are the company responsible for Pokemon Go.
I did see this.
They have announced that their next venture is going to be into the Harry Potter universe.
I don't think I believed it quite at first. Not because I can't believe it ever could be happening, right? But I think I've been seeing the story floating around for months, and it's always been... I think I've been seeing the story floating around for months, and it's always been like complete nonsense and like, no, it's just a hoax, it's just fake news. But now it seems to be true.
Yeah, apparently so. Now, we don't know necessarily any details on it, but since it's Niantic, we can guess that it's probably going to be some kind of augmented reality game. That's my guess. I think it's basically going to be Pokemon Go, but with wizards. The thing that I actually find funny is that, because you're right, like we've been hearing that Niantic had a new project. The rumor was that it was probably Harry Potter. And around that time was when the creator of Stardew Valley announced his next game, which was going to be, and I kid you not, Stardew Valley meets Harry Potter. That's literally what he described it as. So it's like, oh, wow, everybody wants to mimic Harry Potter now. All right, cool. That's the way it goes. So, I mean, I guess the obvious question that I got to ask is are either of us going to pick it up? Since I technically haven't picked up Pokemon Go yet, I don't think I'm picking this up.
But now's the perfect time. We missed out on Pokemon Go. Now we can do the Harry Potter one.
200? No, that seems a little small. 300? Give me the 300 subs, then we'll talk.
Oh, you're a long ways from that, dude.
Well, we don't know when this game's coming out. So at that point,
True.
I might be really close. And then the other thing, as an addition to that, we just officially confirmed that Warner Brothers has set up a Harry Potter games division. So, and specifically, the label for it, you're going to love this, Alex, Portkey Games. So this was revealed at the Pottermore website that Portkey Games will feature both new characters and, excitingly, could feature familiar characters at different points in their lives from the Harry Potter stories. The president of Warner Brothers Interactive notes that Portkey Games is working with talented creators, and the games will live alongside the magical universe created by J.K. Rowling. So yeah, we're basically looking at a Harry Potter revolution.
Interesting stuff.
Because Warner Brothers needs to make some kind of money off of this property.
It's true.
So
Warner Brothers needs that money.
Coming soon, Call of Duty Harry Potter edition. Don't giggle. It's a possibility. Warner Brothers does work with both. I can't remember if they have the solid relationship with EA or Activision. I think it's EA. So it's entirely possible you could get Harry Potter.
Yeah,
the shooter.
EA.
Yeah, so Harry Potter by DICE.
Yeah.
You could get it. That would be very interesting. How would you run out of ammo? You've run out of water in your mouth to cast spells?
Or I guess your wand could break. I could see it actually kind of working. I mean, it would...
it depends on what you do with it.
Like a game where hypothetically maybe you can like play as Aurors in the Ministry of Magic and you're fighting other wizards. It's like could make a game based around the Wizarding War.
I think you've got a lot of potential for good stories with that, but here's my problem with it, and I have a feeling you're going to agree with me on this. If it gets slapped into being, forced into being like a VR game, then I'm not interested. Like, I don't want a gimmick attached to it. I just want you to tell a good story. Now, granted, we're talking EA here, and as we're going to cover later on tonight, they aren't necessarily buying into that model anymore. So yeah, that might not happen, but that's kind of my deal, is like, if you're willing to tell good stories, I think you can do something in the Harry Potter universe. If you basically hand it to DICE, I'm not as faithful on that, because I don't think you're going to get story out of it. I think you're going to get multiplayer, and that's what EA is going to want. Safe to say.
Safe to say, yeah.
Yeah. So the next story that we actually got submitted by you guys was, apparently, I tried to track down the original statement that he had. Well, here's the original statement. I didn't notice it was in the article, but Christopher Nolan has apparently picked a fight with Netflix. So Christopher Nolan, he apparently picked a fight with Netflix over, I guess, trying to get Dunkirk on the service. And he made the comment of, apparently Netflix has a bizarre aversion to supporting theatrical films. And I guess this is over the complications that he's been dealing with to get Dunkirk onto the format. I'm not entirely sure, but he has since come out and done a full-on apology. At least what he told in an interview to Variety: "I should have been more polite. I said what I believe, but I was undiplomatic in the way I expressed it. I wasn't giving any context to the frankly revolutionary nature of what Netflix has done. It's extraordinary. They need appropriate respect for that, which I have." So at that point, I think that's more along the lines of, oh, did we realize that we pissed off the sleeping giant, and now we're trying very hard to get our movie onto that format? That's my guess. Is basically Nolan is kind of backpedaling so that he can get Dunkirk on there and be able to get some revenue from that. Since I'm trying to remember, did Dunkirk do well financially?
I thought it did. I don't know how well it did though. Let's find out.
Maybe he's concerned about DVD sales. I don't know. I wouldn't be concerned. I think if people liked it in the theater, they're probably going to buy it. Just saying, that's usual buyer culture anyway. So it's
let's see. Fun. Dunkirk lifetime gross $187 million.
What was its budget?
Let's see if they tell me. Budget about $100 million.
Okay, so he did walk away with a profit. Huh? I don't know. I don't know. The next thing, too, that a few listeners brought up, but and actually Alex brought up, too, but since it's so not wishy-washy, but so flip-floppy, I didn't include it on the agenda, and that was just simply because of the will they, won't they possible deal that's going on between Disney and 21st Century Fox. Apparently they've had meetings, but wait, they haven't had meetings. Apparently there's talk of being able to still do this format and this format, but wait, they've never even discussed any of that. And so at that point, that's really why I put it. So I've got like 4 different testimonies, and they're 50%. Some are saying that they've met, some are saying that they haven't. But basically it's the stuff that they're talking about is that 21st Century Fox and Disney have apparently met for a possible, I think it was like a 75% buyout of their stuff. So they would basically be like a majority holder in the company.
Well, some of the details of that I've seen, at least, and again, hello there. From what I've seen, because I remember seeing when that story first broke, some rumors say it's for Disney to become a majority holder. Others say that it's Fox considering selling their movie production and television production arms and becoming solely about news and sports.
Wait. Fox. Does that mean Marvel could get Fantastic Four back? No, probably not.
And X-Men.
Oh, and
that's X-Men. That's what people are hoping this will lead to. I'm kind of in the camp that still believes that X-Men should be kept out of the MCU because, again, they're a big glaring contradiction in the Marvel Universe. But
yeah, especially since the universe has been built around the fact I can't mention them. So yeah, you can't even do it. It would be, you'd have to backpedal a lot to be able.
Yeah,
to
and I mean there are.
Them.
Well, yeah, because I mean my older brother is in the camp that wants the X-Men incorporated into the MCU, and we did discuss some ways they could be explained, especially depending on how the universe is going to be shaped after the Infinity War.
Yeah.
But my worry is that, I mean, yes, the X-Men films don't have the greatest track record, but the ones that are good have been really, really good. Whereas Marvel, it's just the same boring, let's make every movie the frickin' same and use the fact that it's a shared cinematic universe to cover up plot holes.
Yeah, I mean, the other possibility that I have seen bounced around is you could technically justify mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the reason you can is because Inhumans are a thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So at that point, you just basically say there's no such thing as X-Men, you make them all Inhumans. I don't know if that works, guys.
It didn't work in the 616. That's exactly what they tried to do in the 616 to diminish the X-Men, and guess what? It didn't work. They tried doing an Inhumans show. Guess what? It didn't work!
Nope. In fact, I think the Inhumans show bombed, didn't it?
I heard it did not get very good reviews.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, so I don't even know. And then I guess before we get things started on the podcast, let's bring Romney up to speed. So Niantic's next project could be a Harry Potter game. Romney, how do you feel about that?
Honestly, given Niantic's track record, I mean, given how Warner Brothers wants to keep Harry Potter relevant, I'm not that surprised. I mean, honestly,
because the next piece of this that you need to talk about is that Warner Brothers has actually officially decided to make a game studio completely devoted towards Harry Potter projects called Portkey Games.
Well, I mean, they already have NetherRealm. I mean, at least they're diversifying instead of trying to force a studio like NetherRealm into making a Harry Potter game. Although, I'll be honest, a Harry Potter-style fighting game made by NetherRealm, although I'm not a fan of Mortal Kombat, I definitely would want to see what that would look like.
Well, now that you've brought it up, now, yeah, I want to see it too. No, the unfortunate part of that I left out was the fact that Warner Brothers is actually looking towards other studios to be able to help build Portkey. And one of the suspected ones is obviously one of the big two, Activision and EA. So it would probably be EA, since EA's worked with the Harry Potter license in the past.
Yeah.
And therefore, they hand it over to DICE and we get a Harry Potter shooter.
Which technically could work. I mean, you just switch out the guns for wands and vary up the spells. I mean, given how loose the movies and books have been using the spell Stupefy, honestly, you could pretty much make that work. Now, making it work well is one thing, but you could easily make a Harry Potter shooter, or just wait. EA's going to make Quidditch 2017.
Okay, and then finally, the last story that we need to catch you up on is the Chris Nolan apparent apology tour. Apparently, he went off and pissed off Netflix earlier this week and now has to go and apologize for it. And we're guessing it's because of the fact he's trying to, because the article doesn't really say, but I guess he's trying to get Dunkirk onto Netflix and they're being kind of difficult to work with. So he basically snapped at them, and then I guess a few days later basically made an apology like, that was not fair, and I apologize. Netflix is way more of a revolutionary platform than I even gave it credit for. That's why I'm thinking like he wants to get Dunkirk on there. And so he's doing an apology tour to ingratiate himself in Netflix again.
Yeah. Honestly, without knowing the full context, I can't really weigh in too much. It's something that does happen where people say things that they may regret and they try to own up for it. It happens.
Pretty much.
Oh, I found this, and maybe this is a bit more clarity. It seems, I don't think he's too much angry about Dunkirk. I think he's more feeling that Netflix is kind of stealing away from the theaters, and he kind of likens it to a direct-to-video model. And it's like kind of saying this isn't innovation. This is just old Hollywood stigma back in a new light.
That kind of makes a little more sense in the sense that, yeah, Netflix is changing the way people consume their media. especially given that films, and Netflix has tried releasing some of the films that they've released into theaters, but more people are inclined to watch something on, like, at home instead of watching it in a theater. So I can see where the umbrage may come from, but I think Christopher Nolan realizes, yeah, maybe best to not piss off the company that is changing the industry, because they're probably going to be bankrolling everything in the near future. So
pretty much. I mean, we haven't discussed it too much on the podcast, but I mean, we're already starting to see movie tickets go up and a bunch of other things. I would not be surprised if, like, the next 5 years that the equivalent of, like, a, you know, what a concert would cost is eventually going to be what we pay for to see a movie, kind of thing. I mean, technically, if you're a family of like 3 or 4, you're already spending that kind of money. So
I mean, Spielberg even kind of predicted it with his whole, you'd pay $7 to see Lincoln and $14 to see Iron Man, because this is the same thing that happened in the 50s. Theaters are trying more and more gimmicks to get people to come back. It's just this time 3D is actually working, so now they're actually having to be a bit more creative and finding ways to get people to the theater. And so you can see where it's come from, where, yeah, it is like old habits coming back, but, well, that's the name of the game. It's that you've got those companies that take those risks and make those innovations, and, well, when they... Yeah. And then you've basically got the old guard that don't like the fact things are changing. And again, it looks like, from what I'm seeing of the whole incident, Chris Nolan is very much thinking, okay, I may not like it, but let's not burn any bridges, because, again, Netflix is getting powerful.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get things started then. So let me know when you guys are good to go.
Rolling. Sound speed.
And here we go, everybody. We're going to be doing a live recording. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let me get everything set up back over here. I'm running way too much on my poor little computer. It's been working around the clock. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for Friday night, November 10th, 2017. I am, of course, your host, Adam Mickelson, a.k.a. Drac. How is everybody doing this fine week? Now that we've got BlizzCon past us, now that we can officially start into the holiday season, because, well, according to all of the stores that I've gone to, it started in October this year. We can officially say that, yes, we're officially started in there. I hope you guys are having an awesome time. And, of course, welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you guys here. But, of course, I'm obviously not alone. As you guys can see, I have a panel here of fellow geeks, fellow awesome guys, fellow YouTubers. Let's go ahead and introduce them for this evening. We have Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost, From the Shelf, Romney's Reviews, Monster Clash, and Rhapsody in Cinema. Romney, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been an okay week for the most part, although, as people may notice on my Twitter account, my NaNoWriMo word counts have been diminishing a little bit. Kind of comes with trying to balance writing a novel within a month with a 9-to-5 job, so at least there's that. I mean, I'm still making progress, because some progress is better than none, but, well, it's a bit of a balancing act, but other than that, can't really complain, aside from a fencing injury I sustained last night.
Or the injury that you unfortunately sustained when we recorded a couple of days ago.
Oh.
I felt bad.
Well, to be fair, that injury is minor compared to the fencing injury, because the fencing, like that, I felt fine the following day. The fencing thing, I'm still feeling it. Long story short, it was in a bout. I was advancing, the other guy was retreating, I ran into his blade and took it right in the thigh.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so the incident that I'm talking about is actually last Sunday. We were recording the last little bit of Metal Gear 2 footage, and literally we're all shaking each other's hands and giving each other high fives. And the second that we get about halfway down the stairs at my place, Romney slips on the stairs and thankfully catches himself. But I mean, yeah, technically, I have no problem saying that I was like, Romney, are you okay? Please don't sue me.
Well, again, I'm a martial artist. I know how to fall.
Yes. But yeah, okay. All right. Well, that's gonna be awesome. And crap, I even had a thought, and now I've completely lost it. Oh well, it'll come back.
Well, what Romney hasn't mentioned is he's officially filed for workman's comp from you. So get ready for that, Adam.
Anyway, moving on to the next panelist that we have tonight is the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. He has decided to come out of the shadows and grace us with his presence once again. And I'm kind of happy about that because Alex has had some anger management issues this past week. I was actually going to say, technically we were worried about the fact that you wouldn't make the podcast tonight because you'd be too busy with your brand spanking new PS4. But now I'm just worried that PS4 has since been broken in this past week.
No, I'm not gonna break my very expensive PS4. I'd rather just break the game discs that I buy with it. Those are cheap and easy to replace.
Well, hopefully not on the walls that you technically aren't paying for. So that would probably not be a good idea. That would probably be more work for you this year.
Long story short is over the week, I've bounced between quickly wrapping up .hack GU, Last Recode, into, Bottomless Pits, the game featuring Sonic the Hedgehog. And needless to say, it's been an upsetting couple of days to watch yet another absolute abysmal travesty unfold before my eyes. And now twice I've been reduced to rage quitting and taking the disc out of the PS4 through the proper channels, of course. I'm not literally ripping it out and tossing the disc to the side because I'm so done with it.
So at this point, can we officially say, Alex, that you need to repeat after me really quick? F the anniversaries. Let's give Sonic a 10-year break.
Yes, let's give him a nice long break.
Yeah, okay. I haven't even gotten that far into that, but already, the fact that you're disappointed with it, I don't know if that says necessarily anything bad because, you and me have different opinions on games, but we'll see when I get there. And yeah, before we actually get into the stories tonight, there actually was a cool little story that I wanted to be able to share with you guys. It's one of those things that seems very minor to an average listener, but to us, since we've been working so hard on this podcast, was actually very amazing to have happen. And I've actually kept it from the panelists until now. So I want to say Wednesday, I actually got an awesome little message from somebody who basically said that his first access, basically he said that his first access through our content was the podcast. And via iTunes, obviously. And he actually, because he loved the podcast so much, that he was going to go and visit all of our channels and check out all of the YouTube content that we do. I know that since he has subscribed to my channel, but I'm not sure about you guys. I wasn't able. You guys' numbers are going up a little bit more consistently than mine these days. So I don't know if he actually was one of the numbers that joined on. But I thought that was awesome that we've had our first little instinct ever since moving over to iTunes, where we have somebody coming to the podcast, loving what they're hearing, and then in turn looking us up on the other media that we do. In particular, I know that he did say that he checked out the making of video that Romney did for Monster Clash. So that's pretty awesome, actually, considering how long we've been working at this. That's a pretty awesome story to be able to hear. And thank you guys so much for sharing that with us. But I wanted to start that off because that's freaking awesome as far as I'm concerned. And now
by chance
get into the depressing content. What?
Do you know the channel name?
It wasn't a channel per se. It was just an email address that I got.
Okay. Because I know I've gotten a couple of emails over the week.
Well, yeah, and probably best to not reveal the person's name on the air without their permission, of course.
Yeah, I double checked the subscribers because I've gotten some if I could talk. I've gotten some subscribers this week, but the email address that I had didn't match them. So I don't know. But as soon as I figure that out, I would be more than happy to give you guys that, and we'll see if he actually subscribed to all of our content. But nonetheless, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and then taking the time out of your day to check out Alex's content, checking out Romney's content as well as mine. And make sure to do that for Brenton because, he just barely got married and he got to pay some bills. That's the way it goes. He got some Final Fantasy to play. So, that being said...
Flipping into Dusty Roads there for a little bit.
Oh, you want me to flip into some Dusty Roads? I can do that because I'm a super genius, and that's the way I know how it goes. No, you got to do a little bit of a lift to be able to get Dusty Roads off the ground. All right, so It's good that we get all the positive out now because
we're gonna need it.
We're gonna need it. I put in our Geek News Facebook thread, which is basically I kind of think it was a bad idea to get rid of the Prozac budget. And tonight's a perfect example. It's been a pretty nasty week in a lot of these cases in media, period. And I have a feeling it ain't getting any better. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be cranking up the Christmas music to like 11 for most of December. Just be like, no, world, I can't hear you. All I'm hearing is jingle bells.
Which
I'm going to just warn you. Right now, I'm going to warn you, Adam. If you play that when I come over, I'm going to bash your radio in. Play any Christmas music when I come over. If your radio's going down, I mean it.
Wow. Okay. Such hatred.
I get enough of it because I get enough of the Christmas music at work. There's only so many times you can hear Frosty the Snowman before you go insane.
Romney, I think the next Dragon Shadow recording, I just need to bring some Zen music.
Yeah, or you counter it with another like hotel lobby hell music. Easy listening jazz renditions of ABBA.
Yeah, there you go. Because now I'm actually really worried about, because he's already had the frustrations with Sonic Forces, and now he's having this. I'm kind of worried now.
Well, just don't ask him to play any Christmas Nights into Dreams, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and get the madness started. So the first thing we got to do, or the first story that we have tonight, is more of an update, but it's one that a few listeners have reached out to us and asked for our opinion on. So I'm going to have to bring people up to speed on it. But basically what has happened is, and I'm just bringing up both, not articles, but both pages so that I can be able to do this. I want to say in the middle of the summer, like June or July, Jesse Cox hosted CoxCon. CoxCon is basically the best explanation that I've ever seen on it, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know it was a thing. But you know what? The fact that he named it CoxCon doesn't surprise me. I follow Jesse Cox. I know this is not a surprise. He's kind of egocentric. So basically, he did CoxCon 2017 in the UK. And he was just barely starting things up for the con. And I guess their first thing that they do, kind of like how BlizzCon has an opening ceremony or whatever, this one was basically just an open Q&A for people to get the silly out, to get all of the fun out of the way so that then they could focus on the other content of the con. And the first thing that happened was, since it's again, this is what I've been able to learn. This is a convention completely devoted to, quote, all things internet. And that includes memes. And apparently it's, I guess, a tradition. This is the only thing I wasn't able to confirm. It's apparently a tradition to ask Jesse at this Q&A at the beginning about memes and get his answer for it. And this time around, we had a meme. I almost wonder if I have to put an H tag or something like that on here. But the meme is, "Are traps gay?" Now, for those who don't understand what that means, basically it's referring to a man who is a woman, who is very passable as a woman, and asking if that's the case, then is that gay? Okay, so that's the context here. Let me see if I can actually get you guys a legit definition so I make sure that I have this right.
Well, based on the research, it's a multi-faceted thing, at least
it's
in terms of
basically used for transgender women. So somebody actually asked at the beginning of CoxCon in the Q&A, "Are traps gay?" And you guys can actually, I'll even put I'll put the article up on our description on the Podomatic feed. You guys can see Jesse's reaction as it happens, but it's kind of conflicting because now we actually have a statement from him. But he basically kind of plays it off. He for lack of a better term, Bill Clinton's it, and or politicians it, and tries to brush it off. And we don't ever get an official answer on that from him the rest of the convention. However, this, according to a couple of testimonies, 14-year-old kid apparently triggered one Total Biscuit, John Bain. And in turn, he went nuts. The best way to look at it is if you've seen the tweets that Total Biscuit was putting out after this whole incident, he literally lost his proverbial marbles. Okay. He went nuts on this person. And long story short, this kid was found and ejected from CoxCon, and the money for his ticket immediately donated to a charity by Total Biscuit. Okay. Now, people might be wondering, why are we reporting on something that happened 4 months ago? It was controversial, don't get me wrong, but why are we reporting on it? It happened. There's really nothing else you can do. That's not what we're reporting on. After or during BlizzCon, which Jesse Cox went to and got some coverage of that, he then released an official statement regarding it on Twitter. I'm not going to read the whole thing again. I'll put this page in the description for you guys, but because it's 2 pages long, so I'm not going to read it. But basically he's saying along the lines of, when the thing initially happened, when he got asked the question, there was apparently some audio feedback, so he actually couldn't hear the question. All he could hear was that he got he heard laughter going on throughout the audience. And then people who were closest to him were saying, no, don't answer. Don't answer. And so that's why he played it off. He played politician with it. But when he found out about the ejection of the kid, this is where the statement is officially going. He basically said, if I was handling this thing directly, I would have done things differently, but I'm not necessarily going to criticize the staff at CoxCon or Total Biscuit or anything like that. But if I was actually involved in it, which I wasn't, I probably would have handled the situation differently. I would have pulled the kid aside. I would have tried to get a dialogue going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people have written this off as Jesse covering his tracks. And for the most part, you can actually take it as such. He's basically covering his tracks because this has been bothering him for 3 to 4 months now, and he hasn't really addressed it. But the other thing that people are bringing up is that, and I'm kind of in this camp, whose name is on the freaking con? CoxCon. So my first question is, why weren't you involved in this? Because it is literally your name. Your name is on the banner. You are representing a brand, blah, 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 blah. Why did they not go to you? Or why did you not get involved? It's great and all that you play hindsight's 2020. You do things differently, but you didn't get involved. You were off doing other things. And I get it. You're busy, but the argument could be made that this is something that you should have been handling from the get-go. I'm pretty sure you had access to your Twitter just as much as anybody else did. You could have seen the meltdown that Total Biscuit was having. And the fact that you stayed quiet for 3 to 4 months just really doesn't help your case in any of those in any of these situations. So that's really where this is going into. People wanted our opinions and a little bit of a discussion on the situation that happened. Was Jesse in the right to make this statement? Was Total Biscuit in the wrong for kicking out the kid? Especially since it looks like Jesse wasn't even involved in that decision-making process at all. And if he was against it, should he have been involved in that process? Should it have been just left up to Total Biscuit and others to handle? Because again, it's his name on the damn con. So I'm going to open it up to you guys before I go into more of my opinions on the matter. Romney, you seem to be kind of in thought here. Where are you going with it?
It's definitely a tricky situation. I'll start with the statement itself. I understand why Jesse Cox is making that statement, because again, it is his name on the convention. It pretty much is a case of where he would have had to address it at some point. So I'm guessing his logic is, okay, let's address this and clear this up right now. And looking at his statement, especially mentioning how he probably would have handled things differently, where he would have liked to have talked to the person and try to kind of find a better resolution. But he also explained he was busy running other parts of the convention. And so while it wasn't just Total Biscuit, it was also other people who were staffers at the convention. It very much was a case of they had to make a judgment call, and the ejection of that person was the call that they decided to make. And I kind of like how Cox took the approach of, hey, I understand it was a very difficult situation to handle. They handled it as best as they could. While he himself would have done it differently, he doesn't really fault Total Biscuit and the other staffers, because had the person not been ejected, you don't know. For all we know, it could have been a one-time thing, or he could have caused more trouble convention. And I know from experience, not necessarily from running conventions, but my sister has helped with a lot of anime conventions and run events. Conventions are hard things to run. So when you have situations like that, you want to get it taken care of as quickly as possible before things escalate. And
I guess the question that I have to ask is, again, CoxCon is to celebrate all things internet. And memes are a part of the internet. So technically, the question that I'm obviously is on my mind, and when I get to my opinion, I'll go there, is Total Biscuit in the right? This kid was celebrating exactly what you wanted him to celebrate when going to this con, and you kicked him out for it.
Well, to be fair, I believe Cox did establish a pretty good rebuttal to that idea where, it is a meme, but, it's pretty much like the same as a comedian making a controversial joke in the wrong kind of venue. And so, while yes, the question, are traps gay, is a meme, you have to consider, it's a meme, but it doesn't mean it's a harmless joke, because it is, by most accounts, a very transphobic meme, especially given that the word trap is used in a very derogatory context. And so, naturally, it would make a lot of people angry. It's kind of the same case when Gilbert Gottfried tweeted that tweet. It was shortly after the tsunami that, a few years ago, where it was like, I'm a little oscillator, but as they say in Japan, there's always one floating down. And, he got, flabbayed for it by so many people. It cost him his gig with Aflac. It cost so many other things. And it's the same basic situation where, yes, it's a meme. Yes, it's a joke, but it's not a very good joke. And it very much is the case of, wasn't really the appropriate venue. It very much was done for the sake of shocking the audience. Thus why you had the group of people that got mad and kept telling Cox not to answer it. And so there, it's very much as a case of, it is a meme, but you have to really consider what the kind of joke the meme is making. And that again puts CoxCon and the people in a difficult position in terms of how to handle it. And as he mentioned, it was a split-second judgment call, so I kind of understand where he's coming from, where although he would have done it differently, it is one of those things that, if not handled quickly, could have turned into something much worse.
What should have probably happened in that case is that when it comes to, he should have, at least in my opinion, he should have had a rule in place that if anybody was going to get ejected from the con, that they be brought to him. That the information, or I'm not saying the person, but I'm saying at very least the information be brought to him, and he makes the final call, kind of thing. Maybe that's something that they will amend in the future. I don't know. Again, I'll go into my opinion on that in a second. But Shadow Blazer, where are you standing with this whole CoxCon controversy?
I think the ejection was pretty much justified. I know it's a meme. That doesn't mean it's automatically good or automatically appropriate. There's a lot of stuff out there, memes and otherwise, that's just not appropriate for public venues like these. Most cons, all the ones at least I've been to, anime and otherwise, they at least try to keep them as relatively family-friendly as you can be. They might have some selected adult panels.
Not this one.
It's not. Is it not?
Have you seen a video from Jesse Cox?
No, I haven't.
Anything but family friendly, dude.
I'm saying in the relative sense, not. I'm not saying it's strictly like a Disney theme park here.
Yeah, but when you're making a con that's celebrating all things internet, and memes are part of that, including the controversial memes. That's where I kind of stumble, because at that point you've made it very clear what this thing is, and if this kid was ejected for simply doing what this con told him to do, then is he in the wrong? And see, that's where I get into that dilemma.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is wrong personally, just because it's just not appropriate. And again, there's a time and place for everything, but I don't think this probably was the time or place. Again, I think it's a public venue, and I don't know what this con's official policies are. I've never been. I don't have any like resources at my fingertips to read up. But like I said, from my experience with the handful of cons I've been to, they sort of keep things at a PG-13 level or so. And I get this is a celebration of the internet, but again, time and place for everything. Maybe there are a panel set aside for more risque stuff like that. Either way, I think it was probably just a good idea for the convention goer who spouted it out, as well as everyone else, to just eject him from the con, because, you know, either he might cause problems later, they don't want to have to deal with that, or it's going to cause more headaches down the road when, you know, the mainstream press picks up on it and starts saying, is Jesse Cox's convention homophobic? Or, you know, worse, or even more worse, it leads to an altercation out in the hallways when somebody says, I don't like the joke that you just made. I won't, and then boom.
Well, technically they were going to have an altercation anyway, considering how pissed off Total Biscuit was on the matter. Like,
yeah,
I don't care how many treatments he's gone through. He was about, the way that those tweets went, he was about ready to kick this kid in the nuts.
Yeah, I think he had to exercise a lot of restraint there.
Well, and here's where I was hoping that I wouldn't have to be the guy, but here comes I'm a piss you off party mode. Because here are a couple of things that I have a problem with. One, given the reactions that Total Biscuit had, I do not think he should have been involved in the decision-making process at all. Because the bottom line is that if he's administrative staff, first of all, that makes me seriously question that, because a lot of the cons that I've seen that have been run by web celebrities and whatnot, the web celebrities are kept as far away from that as possible. They already have a dozen other things to worry about, including their autograph signings or their panels, all that stuff. You leave it to the CoxCon personnel kind of thing. And the fact that he got directly involved with this is alarming to me, especially considering that this is Total Biscuit we're talking about. The guy who is absolutely 100% on the platform, free speech, everything, and he's having a meltdown over a kid exercising that. So I know that in a lot of cases, you guys are making some good points that this is a con, that they have to maintain a good PR. But the bottom line is, this is something that actually affected both Jesse and Total Biscuit after. Not just from con goers. They actually saw significant subscriber drops on both of their channels because of this whole incident. Yeah, and a lot of that was reflected in the fact that Total Biscuit was involved in a situation he probably shouldn't have been involved in.
They'll rebound every time there's these, big drops from PR fallouts like this. They always rebound so quickly.
I don't know.
Always rubber bands right back.
Do any of us want to be in PewDiePie's chair right now?
Hell no.
The second he does a third strike, none of us want to be there, because he is going to lose people. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. He is going to lose people in droves, because 3 strikes, you're out. It doesn't matter if these are accidents or slip-ups or whatever. It gets enough media coverage. It doesn't even matter. Parents are going to forbid their kids from watching PewDiePie. It's going to be
yeah, that's going to work.
Well, it can. It can. We're starting to get more internet-savvy parents. So back into my opinion. I do not think Total Biscuit should have been involved in this process at all. And I also think, again, it's a little it's a little bit of a double standard, considering who Jesse Cox is, that you ejected a person for doing what Jesse Cox would do on the Co-Optional podcast. Literally, Jesse Cox's job, I'm thoroughly convinced, and I've watched episodes, guys, and you can dispute it with me all you want. Jesse Cox's job on that podcast is simply to be the guy who immediately disagrees with whatever the panel is all in agreement about. Okay? That's who Jesse Cox is. He is like, if you have two people that are cat people, he is immediately dog or anti-animal. Okay, that's who this guy is. So the fact that this kid got ejected for doing what Jesse Cox would do, I think is a little bit of a double standard. And yeah, do I think that Jesse should have been involved in that process? I think Jesse should have been involved in that process before Total Biscuit. If it's going to be something along those lines, then maybe that's what you need to amend the policies for. If somebody's going to get ejected, that information is brought to the owner of the con before he gets ejected. He gets held off in a room somewhere until that decision is made. And then if Jesse wants to handle things the way that he wants to handle them, he could do that. He can go and talk to the guy and see whether or not they need to eject him or whatever. I'm not saying that he's in the right or in the wrong. This is just an overall horrible situation. Frankly, they were, as far as I'm concerned, they walked right into this. And I'm not saying walked, I'm saying like as a steam locomotion engine, just bam, right into the wall, because there was no way that you weren't going to get this at CoxCon. Not with how Jesse Cox operates on YouTube, not with how Total Biscuit operates on YouTube. It was going to happen, especially if you call it a celebration of all things internet. Then you have to celebrate the bad along with the good. So at that point, the only thing that I think we're all in agreement is simply this is a policy that definitely needs to be looked into if Jesse's going to do that again. I know that CoxCon was established before he went independent, so I don't know if he can do a CoxCon 2018. But if you do, you need to look at this policy again and maybe make sure that your fellow YouTuber buddies, because here's the other thing too that I also see as a problem. What would have happened if Jesse Cox had actually stood up to Total Biscuit? At the absolute maximum, he doesn't have a job the next day because he's not invited to the Co-Optional podcast anymore, which is where a lot of people know him from. Because considering the meltdown that TB was having, it's entirely possible he would just said, you know what, I'm terminating my business relationship with Jesse Cox for like 6 months, kind of thing. So at that point, I actually believe that it was just an overall craptastic situation to walk into. And maybe we should have looked at this whole thing when we conceived the idea of CoxCon. So that's my overall viewpoint on the matter. I think there is nobody who is innocent in this entire situation. I get that Jesse was trying to basically get some things off his conscience, and good on you, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. And I can understand why still some of your people who used to be your fans are still kind of pissed at you over this situation, because it's just an overall, pardon my French, shitty situation to walk yourself into. So that being said, let's move on to the next story, because there's really not a whole lot to move into aside from what we've already talked about. And it just gets worse from here. Well, that's not entirely true. We have some good things, but yeah, it gets worse from here. The next thing that we need to talk about is literally about a day or two old. And people might remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about EA purchasing Visceral Games. The Dead Space creators are now a part of EA, and their Star Wars game is going to be made with a new studio behind it, all that stuff. Well, unfortunately, EA was not done there because they just purchased Respawn Entertainment. Respawn was actually another game company that was going to be making a Star Wars game. I'm trying to remember my big text, but unfortunately it's been a couple of years from now, but I believe Respawn was part of that. Oh yeah, that's right. Cause they worked on the VR one. I think they worked on the VR addition to Battlefront, but also are known for the series Titanfall. And now, $400 million later, EA has acquired Respawn, which is basically saying that now, here's the thing. EA has said that they're not terminating Titanfall. They are, in fact, going to do another game. But given EA's recent directions, I don't think a single-player story is what they have in mind, which is kind of what people were applauding Titanfall for last time, with including a single-player campaign into Titanfall 2. I can guarantee that's not happening this time around. if EA's already acquired them. But yeah, we don't really have too many other details aside from the acquisition has happened. I believe they've already said that the studio will be kind of merging into EA. They will be working on a supposed either they are working on an upcoming Star Wars game that's probably going to get moved off to one of their other studios. There is an unofficial Titanfall 3 in the works that's probably going to be affected by all this. What are our thoughts on it? It's EA playing Monopoly is literally the only thing I can think of to say. It's sad, but well, this is the game that EA wants to play, so to speak.
Well, so how long until EA shuts this one down?
I'm giving it a month.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Monopoly analogy is pretty apt considering that EA wasn't the only company trying to buy Respawn.
No.
And the writer of the Kotaku article, Jason Schreier, kind of outlines the sequence of events in a tweet that's been appended to the end of the article, as EA was effectively in a bidding war with the Korean MMO company Nexon.
Nexon, yeah.
Because Nexon was producing the Titanfall mobile game and was looking to acquire Respawn Entertainment, and EA managed to just barely outbid them. And, well, according to the documentation that Nexon provided to Kotaku, EA also had the first right of refusal per some of the contracts they had outlined with Respawn Entertainment, which was what allowed them to make the bid and outbid Nexon, was that they basically...
And then
to kind of explain how...
Go ahead, Romney. I was just going to say, the next part of that is interesting, but go ahead.
Yeah, to explain how the first right of refusal works, because you see it in film, it's similar to basically a first look deal. To use this example, I'm going to use the existing rights with Dragon Ball, because many people don't realize 20th Century Fox has the film rights to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, meaning any of the animated films that come out in Japan have to be offered to 20th Century Fox first. They basically look at it and they say, okay, we're going to distribute this, or nah, we're not going to distribute it. And then it can be basically bid on by other people, like Funimation. And that's kind of how this is here, where when Respawn was saying, hey, we're open for companies bidding on it, EA is the company that has the first right to perusal, or EA is basically like, okay, do we want to acquire this game company? And they can either say, yes, let's acquire this game company, or no, we can let other companies bid on it. And, well, that's what happened here.
And then at that point, like I said, the next step in that is interesting. So yeah, you mentioned EA has the first right of refusal. Per documentation, can make an offer. Then EA shuts down Visceral. So that's how this works in the timeline. So a couple of weeks ago, we announced the Visceral thing, and then came Respawn. So yeah, I mean, I can't help but think that these aren't isolated incidences. This is EA's game plan. EA wants to acquire both of these studios so that they can then absorb them and make the games that they want to make. Which I don't know if it necessarily is the games that we want them to make, but it's EA. I mean, we've made the Imperial Music joke before.
Yeah, plus
they don't really care about you.
Yeah, plus the sort of thing of companies buying other companies for the purpose of basically getting rid of them. It's something that's happened in business for quite a while. I mean, a good example, Filmation, the company that produced He-Man, Brave Star, the original Ghostbuster cartoon. Mm-hmm. That is literally what happened to Filmation. L'Oreal bought them out, dissolved the company, so they could make money by selling all of the intellectual property Filmation had. Yeah. And granted, we have laws in place now that prevent companies from doing that right away. Well, sadly, that's the name of the game for some companies. Find studios that are moderately successful, buy them, to break them up, and make money off of their past successes because, well, if the company doesn't exist, you don't have to pay as many royalties.
So at this point, I mean, the next question that I guess we got to ask is, okay, so now that they're acquired by EA, I mean, we've already asked the obvious question of how long before they're absorbed into the gigantic Cthulian horror that is EA. But the next question that we have to ask is, okay, what happens to their existing properties? Now, Respawn doesn't have a whole lot to my knowledge. They have Titanfall. And Titanfall is somewhat successful and actually works kind of like what we were saying last week, where the big AAA companies are going more multiplayer. Titanfall started as multiplayer, so we already know that it works. It has a working formula for it. But then the other stuff that they might be working on, like the Star Wars game, what happens to that?
Yeah, part of it to consider is that, and it's mentioned in the Kotaku article, is that Respawn isn't necessarily just working on a Star Wars game on their own. They were already contracted by EA to work on a Star Wars game, since EA has the rights to produce Star Wars games. And so EA could very well, especially given this acquisition, it could be a case that they're going to let them at least finish this Star Wars game, depending on at what point of development they are at. And Titanfall 3 in the works, they may let them make, depending on the success of the Star Wars game. Then there's also the rumored title they were working on for the Oculus Rift. And, well, it's very much one of those cases that EA will probably still have them as Respawn, and then they'll see how their next game, be it either Titanfall 3 or the Star Wars game, whichever comes out first, how they'll look and see how well that does, and then decide what to do going forward.
Yep, and I just barely confirmed their games list. Yeah, Titanfall is what they're known for. So at that point, I honestly think that maybe they'll be able to keep their name and all that stuff, but they'll basically be just another cog in the machine, and their only job is to make Titanfall games. That's all that EA is ever going to want from them, just the cash cow that is Titanfall. Alex, what do you think about this whole Respawn situation?
Yeah, I'm predicting EA is absorbing them to either eventually dismantle them or ride them like BioWare, pretty much. Either they're going to be the head on the wall or they're going to be the sweatshop cog in the machine. And, well, that's pretty much it. So,
which might be happening sooner than we think, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I want to say like every other week you hear more and more BioWare people are leaving as if they see the writing on the wall. So, because I just barely saw that one of the big artists that I did know that was doing some work for Anthem, he's left. And we don't know the reasons for it. He hasn't come out and made his statements clear, but when you see enough of those guys leaving, it's like rats leaving a sinking ship. They know where the direction is going. They know that they're going to be suffocated in that environment. And so what I'm basically trying to say is I think that might happen quicker than we even think. Because once all the big minds at BioWare leave, then at that point, they're solely relying on Respawn. And what happens when Respawn has one failed project? Guarantee that team gets gutted. And maybe even all the big thinkers leave because they just don't want to deal with EA. So unfortunately, that's really all that we can discuss on this. It is disappointing. We would like to see you guys' feedback on this, specifically like from Titanfall fans. I know I was actually trying to bring our buddy Jefferson over to see if he could actually answer on Respawn, and maybe I'll try and get a statement from him that we can put in later. But I mean, I've already talked to a few other Titanfall fans. They're not happy. They're not happy because they can kind of see the writing on the wall that we all see. So let me know if you guys are actually having the same problem, or if you're excited, if you think that it's great, that, you know, like you're an absolute Battlefield fan and you want to see EA acquire Respawn. Let us know. So let's move on into the next story that we have, which doesn't seem like a big thing to report on, but, well, for us it is. So in case you guys have been sleeping under a rock the past few days, Twitter has been beta testing for quite a while of extending the basically expanding on the 140 character limit and doubling it. So looking to move it up to 280, and they just moved it out into the public. So in case you guys hadn't actually noticed, you're not getting characters anymore. Instead, you get kind of a little loading pinwheel. And when you run out, then it doesn't, it's obviously like Twitter. It still restricts you after you hit the negative point. But now you have double the characters with which to work on, especially when advertising and everything like that. There isn't a whole lot to report on this one, but I'm just going to go ahead and open it up to the panel. Is this good? Is this bad? Did you like the 140 character? I know of a few people on Twitter. I've seen statements on Twitter that are mad. They wanted it to stay at 140 characters.
I like it. Well, yeah, I can see where some people come from, and I do kind of see the idea of having a limited character count means that you actually have to, well, barring current events, notwithstanding, it very much you have to actually think about what you want to type to convey the most information with as minimal characters as possible. But as something that Twitter themselves pointed out, that's easier to do in some languages than others. So stuff like Japanese and Chinese, where you can literally write out whole sentences with 4 kanji. I'm exaggerating, of course, but with Chinese, you pretty much could write out a whole sentence with the characters, because the fact that each character could mean one word, things a bit tricky in terms of balancing how much people can say, because what can be said in Chinese in 140 characters would probably take 280 to convey. And so I can kind of see where Twitter has come from, trying to make it, okay, well, let's find a way to equalize how much people are getting to say, especially given that you're seeing the steady stream of people not actually tweeting out statements, but basically uploading a picture of a text file of that statement rather than actually tweeting it out. So that way the information gets out there.
Kind of like how we got the official tweet from Jesse Cox. Is he basically
exactly
2 pages.
And so personally, I'm in favor of it because I tend to be pretty verbose in my writings. And so I like having that little bit more space to basically basically shout at the everlasting darkness that is Twitter. But I can understand where some people may not like the fact that it's expanded, but that just means, okay, well, if you don't like the 280 characters, see it as a challenge. Challenge yourself to write below 140. And, well, it's a good brain exercise of trying to figure out how much to convey with as few words as possible.
Well, and what's funny is like, so the article that we're actually going off of makes a very valid point that, I mean, how long has Twitter been a thing? It's been around for at least 10 years, I would say. I want to say I started hearing about it in 2007. So at that point, I mean, we're talking about people who have been on Twitter for a good 10 years, who have basically gotten used to the 140 character limit. So at that point, I mean, the fact that they extended it, it doesn't really, to the people who are complaining about it, it doesn't affect you. You are by instinct going to be writing things on 140 characters or less. So at that point, if you want to call yourself a true Twitter guy or whatever, you could technically do that because you've done what needed to be done to be able to make this work. Me personally, I like the addition because I kind of had the same problem as you, Romney. I'm a wordy SOB, especially when I'm trying to advertise stuff and I want to be able to get as many hashtags in there as I possibly can. Yes, you guys can say I'm a spammer. I don't care. But like, I want to try and make sure that enough audiences can actually see, the podcast, what I'm doing, all that stuff. So I can tend to get really wordy, and this only helps.
Well, yeah, and the other thing to consider from a design perspective, if you have users that are more wordy, that get frustrated by the character limit, by expanding the character limit, you're making them more likely to keep using the platform if they have a lot to say, by not creating that sense of frustration of, ugh, I'm ran out of space, I have to go back in and edit. And so that's the other key thing, is to make it so that it's basically to keep people tweeting, to keep people using the service, to keep people coming to the website, because if people keep coming to Twitter, that means, hey, advertisers, we have more people coming to the site. Give us your money and we'll put up your ads.
Which, truth be told, I agree completely. I mean, I'm not against Twitter. I have issues when I see politicians on it, but I don't have major problems with Twitter. But that 140 character limit has been a serious disincentive for me to engage with the audience. And, as a content creator, that's not something that you want to do. You want to be able to engage with everybody, especially me, who I'm an overall geek. I just want to talk geek stuff with you. And I don't like the fact that I'm limited to this many characters. So I normally just kind of stick to Facebook personally. But I've actually found it really fun now to go on to Twitter and just start advertising stuff, but at the same time, also start to engage with people a little bit more now that I don't have to worry about how many words can I actually have in this tweet. So I'll admit that I've actually been really incentivized to actually start doing stuff more actively on Twitter, not just business stuff, but doing regular stuff on Twitter. Shadow Blazer, where are you standing with it?
I have no problem with it. I'm wondering what took so long, because I've been hearing about this for months, that
No, it took
we're gonna expand the characters limit, and your hashtags or links won't count against you. I guess they still do, but I get it, because you don't want people just posting a wall worth of hashtags. So that's fine. But yeah, I don't really see any problem with it. It's hard to believe people would complain about having a few more characters to write with.
Well, and all of the complaints that I've seen are just like, you make the joke of the Pokemon Gen 1 purist. That's basically what's happening here, is like, it's the Twitter Gen 1 purist. It's like, I only wanted 140 characters. I had more fun putting in memes, and that's what you're complaining about. But at that point, Twitter already answers that argument. You're going to be doing it anyway. This thing does not affect you at all. Because you can...
There's really no downside. I mean, I think it'd be worse if Twitter decided to limit the characters. That would be worse. Yeah. I'm glad they expanded it. I too have ran out of space to talk on many occasions and have had to use the dreaded reply icon. I don't know if anybody ever bothers to read the triaged replies unless you're, Donald Trump. Then everybody reads everything you write because you can't ever shut up.
I'll be honest. Trump doesn't probably even read them. He just has somebody else read them for him.
Probably so.
Are we done making jokes about Trump? hey, I don't talk about him doesn't mean I don't make jokes.
Yeah. At this point, it's very much low-hanging fruit, though.
This is true. It's real easy. But yeah, I actually think this is going to be a good thing in the long run. I actually think this is something they should have done for like an anniversary kind of thing. So if this is the end of the 10-year anniversary of Twitter, that would be amazing. But like,
actually, it's 11 years.
It's 11 years. Oh, so they've been around since 06.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that should have been a 10-year anniversary thing. So, okay. Well, moving on into the next story, because again, aside from the 280 characters that we just put into this story, not a whole lot that we could go into. And now we're going to get back into a little bit of the depressing. So, Alex, you're particularly passionate about this discussion. Do you want to go ahead and explain it to people?
Okay, so I found this article that says Steam is now starting to crack down on uncensored patches for certain adult games, which I think is kind of nonsensical. I've got the article here. So Steam blocking adult game developers from sharing uncensored patches. Content warnings may not be enough. Makers of certain games such as Galaxy Girl, they can't just link right off to the uncensored patches, which...
Yeah. Now, could you explain really quick what an uncensored patch is, just for those who...
Okay, so...
Because this, I'll admit, this article kind of confused me, because in some cases, both articles kind of go towards, no, we're talking about the games themselves, and then this one is like, no, we're just talking about the patches.
Yeah, okay, so I'm pretty sure the games themselves are still allowed, but usually they're censored. A lot of these games get censored to get onto Steam, because Steam does have policies when it comes to adult games. Now in this case, a lot of these games have patches where you can restore some of the adult content. For example, I bought a game a few months ago from Steam called Love Ribbon, and right off the bat, they give you an option to go download the 18 plus patch, because it's kind of an adult-esque visual novel. It's not like hardcore. Anybody's raising eyebrows. It's like beyond one specific scene, which I'm not going to get into right now, but that's an option for you. So for a lot of this generally applies to visual novel games, like anime-based games, because a lot of those are H games, but many of them also have filters to be age appropriate. So, but it's always up to you if you want to download the 18 plus patch. The devs don't force it on you necessarily. And now Steam is really cracking down. I don't think they're going to outright prohibit it from them being in games, but devs themselves can't link directly from their Steam pages. You got to go through probably more roundabout channels to find an 18 plus patch.
The way that I understand it is basically Steam does not want to have the patches hosted by themselves. And what the sites are in turn having to go do is basically reroute people to their direct site to be able to go and get it. And that looks like to be the major problem here, is that a lot of people don't like the hassle that involves. They just like to get everything up front. But unfortunately, the other problem that comes into play here, we've said it numerous times before about YouTube, and it kind of comes into play here. As much as we want to say this is as free as it could possibly be, well, YouTube is a dictatorship, and it's dictated by YouTube. YouTube is a company. They can decide what is appropriate content for their channel and what isn't. Obviously, they've been doing it all year. Valve is no exception, and neither Valve and Steam in this case is no exception. They are, or at least they've made their stances clear when it comes to these kinds of games, that they don't want to sponsor everything about it. I don't think that they have a problem with the adults only games in there, but maybe they don't like the uncensored stuff showing up on their Steam pages, and therefore saying, oh, well, they endorse this kind of stuff. Like, this is a public relations nightmare from what I can understand. Like, because what happens if you get that? And I know Alex is going to make the argument that there are filters, and I get that there are filters for it, but what happens when that one kid who knows how to get past said filters, his mom walks in and he's playing one of these adult only games? That bounces back hard on Steam, not necessarily on the kid who knew how to bypass the firewalls, so to speak. So
but I think the big problem here is there's kind of the double standards here, because a lot of these mostly target the adult visual novel crowd and those types of anime games. Meanwhile, there's still games like Grand Theft Auto, and it's right here in the comments, Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto and GTA, they have like sex or nudity in them, and well, I don't see Steam cracking down on those now, do we?
Well, but they did. Can you remember? Like, Steam, this is not Steam's first foray into controversy, if you remember.
Yeah.
There's another game that I'd like to point out called Hatred that's still on Steam to this day. Now, granted, it's banned for a completely different guideline. Like, I saw Romney's head kind of tilt there. That one's banned for violence. These are banned for sex. Okay, that there is a distinct difference. But remember, Steam took that down and then put it back
promptly restored it.
Apology.
Yeah.
So at that point,
they restored it and apologized. So it's the usual kind of like, there's the kind of dumb, stupid stereotype that like, oh, we Americans are very prudish when it comes to sex, but violence is a-okay. And when this shit
what's
goes
the
on,
Gaijin Goomba hashtag? Can we just put that in our description?
I can't remember, but when dumb stuff like
blood.
Yeah, but when this happens, it keeps reinforcing that perception, even though, again, it's painting a very broad brush. We certainly crack down just as hard on violent video games as we have in sex and games, but it's sort of just like Steam wants to pick and choose. I'm just, I'm sorry that your kid finds an AO rating video game. That's, I think, your damn problem.
While I agree, there are news outlets that don't. That's the sad part here. So yeah, obviously we kind of have Alex's viewpoint on the matter. Is any, if this is allowed, then others should be allowed. Because I actually want to say, like, they also have had adult controversy, haven't they? Weren't they part of the whole Estival, the Senran Kagura issue too?
No, that was Twitch.
That was just Twitch? Okay. So, because I could have sworn I remember reading, like, Steam did ban that game at one point.
I remember it wasn't Steam, it was a Twitch issue.
It was a Twitch issue? Okay. So, yeah, this is basically the first time we've seen them deal with these kinds of games. And, guys, let me reiterate here. It is Steam's call. Steam gets to say what they get to host and what they don't want to host. And if they want to advertise themselves as a free market and then they prevent the game itself from being on there, then yeah, it's a little hypocritical because they say that they're a free market, but they're not allowing this kind of thing. And at that point, even the PR issues, I don't think would hold up enough for a lot of people. And so, but when you're talking about patches, that's where it gets a little bit more dicey, in my opinion, because at that point, Steam is covered. They hosted the full game. it's not within their purview to have to host every single piece of downloadable content that this game can provide, kind of thing. And so at that point, I have seen them do it with other games. Granted, they were older games, that if you wanted to be able to get a patch fix, then you had to go to the actual website that was entailed and all that. So, I mean, I could see Steam's argument in that, where, you know, they don't necessarily have to host everything in there. But and as far as to the gamers that are saying, you know, this is restricting, this is all that, again, that's a dicey thing because the game is allowed. It's just this patch that isn't. So I'm almost kind of in that 50-50 moniker of like, because here's the thing, I'm not going to buy these games. And if you're buying these games, good on you, but I'm not buying them. And so at that point, it doesn't, as a Steam user, this doesn't affect me that much. I wasn't going to buy Hatred before. I'm probably not going to buy Senran Kagura. I don't know how many times it's been recommended for Let's Play channels to play Galgun, and I'm probably not going to do that either. So, I mean, that's kind of my viewpoint, but it is unfortunately Steam's call, and Steam has ruled in this particular instance. And it sucks, yes, but they have. Romney, you've been kind of looking like you have an opinion for a while now.
Well, not too much. I've just been kind of listening to your guys' back and forth. As for where I stand on the whole issue, I kind of still find it ridiculous that the patches are even necessary, since it's not like these are fan-made mods. These are patches put out by the official company.
Yeah.
Why make it so that they have to patch it all? Why not just have the games uncensored? And yeah, you have the age gate. Then that's it. You have the age gate. You don't have to worry about little Timmy who knows how to get past them, because you put the age gate there, you are not liable. And so it's a case of, why is this a necessity? I mean, yes, it is Valve's decision. They're the ones who decide what is and isn't on their platform. Honestly, it just feels more like they're trying to prevent a problem that they don't even know what the problem is. Yeah. I mean, in a more ideal scenario, it would just be a case of, okay, just have them be uncensored, have the age gate, and let the market decide. But, well, Valve is kind of jumping the gun and trying to head off the Jack Thompsons of the world before, well, anything has really happened. And, well, keep in mind, as we have gamers that are now older, you're hearing less and less from people like Jack Thompson, because those of us who actually have played video games growing up are actually getting into positions of power. So
yeah,
honestly, I think
not just that we're getting into positions of power, but we're becoming parents, and so we know what our parents did that was stupid, and we're not going to repeat that.
Yeah, and so I'm just of the opinion it's kind of ridiculous the patches have to be a thing at all. I mean, I can see why companies like Manga Gamer and a few of those other companies that put out these games, I can see why they have to put them out, because Steam is a large platform. It gets your game a lot of exposure. Mm-hmm. The way I see it, though, especially given that Valve has been mostly silent on the whole issue, that's the more ridiculous thing, is that they haven't given any official statements. People have tried asking Gabe Newell about it, and that's the problem, is that there's no consistency. Especially when you consider
they
one
did
game,
ask Gabe, and he gave some statements, but
they're vague. They're basically politician statements.
Yeah, he's running around.
Yeah, and the other key thing, one game that you both kind of forgot to mention about games that were on Steam that have sexually explicit content, The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 has a lot of that content in plain view, and yet it's not taken down. It's not being pulled off of Steam. It's not being censored to be patched later. And I know the argument is that that's because the sexual content is not the main focus of the game. But again, it is that same double standard. You have CD Projekt Red, which is basically a AAA developer at this point. Yeah. Then you have these smaller companies putting out these visual novels. And so it's the same thing that happened with Twitch with Senran Kagura, where or actually a better example, it's the same thing that happened with Yandere Simulator, where they banned Yandere Simulator, said nothing, didn't tell the developer anything, yet games like God of War and all these other AAA titles that had the very content they stated they banned Yandere Simulator for in plain view, and they were doing nothing. And so, again, Valve really just needs to get their own policies in order, so that way there's at least some consistency, because that's the big problem, and that's where the frustration is coming from, is this lack of consistency.
Was I the only one that was kind of hoping that with the new Steam Direct, that some of this stuff was actually going to be approached. I kind of wish
but that,
because at this point, I mean, I agree with you, Romney. A statement needs to be made, and if it needs to be that all of the adult-only sexual games, like visual novels, just get labeled as non-games and kicked off of Steam, that's at least an answer. Is it an answer that's going to hurt them? Yeah, probably. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it hurts the visual novel gamer because there are other ways to be able to get these visual novels. I mean, I did searches for the games that are in the Polygon story that we have, and already a couple of other services aside from Steam came up that you could get these things. So obviously they're not hurting in that regard. They want Steam because of the number of eyes that are on that product. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm kind of the opinion, just Steam, make a call. I don't care what the call is, just make one. Stop hopping around this. Stop trying to play PR. Make a decision. If this is not what you want on your platform, then take it off. It's the same thing. It's the same overall thing with Hatred, because I've still seen interviews later on where Gabe still isn't really like, he'll put out the PR statement, but he's still not happy Hatred's there. But at the same time, Hatred's still there. And frankly, as a parent, I mean, I can think of a number of things that I don't want to explain to my kid, or my kids, period. But I honestly have less of a problem explaining what a boob is than having to explain why Kratos absolutely needed to decapitate that one guy. That's where I'm standing on this argument, but I see the problem here. It's just Steam needs to make a decision. Alex, are we changing your mind at all, or are you having additional thoughts for this?
No, my thoughts still stand. I'm like, if you're going to have a game like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Hatred, Hatred with the actual adults only rating from the ESRB, the official AO rating, well, there's no reason to there's no reason to have censored games on Steam. You have age gates for a reason. You have yourself covered. If you're worried about the bad press, well, you just did everything you can. You covered yourselves. That's why the age gates exist.
Wait, do they actually have AO ratings?
Yes,
on these
they
visual
do.
novels?
No. Usually no. Usually the visual novels don't go to the ESRB.
Well, that's your problem. Then at that point, I think the only way to solve that is Steam wants the official rating.
But, well, that's not up to Steam. That's up to the developer and the publisher. Steam still institutes the age gate, where you say, please enter your age. You still need a Steam account, which is free, granted.
No,
you still need a Steam account to download anything. You still need a major credit card to purchase anything, or PayPal. You still need to go through these steps. So
that's not what I'm saying. That's why Steam is holding off. It's because they want other people to answer this for them. They basically said, yeah, we ain't touching this with a 10-foot pole. There you go.
Well, yeah.
You handle this, and then we'll enforce it.
Well, then here's the easy solution. Just say, okay, any games that are on our platform have to be rated by the ESRB. There. That's a statement. It's like, okay, official statement, anything not rated by the ESRB gets booted. Granted, that would hurt some of the smaller indie developers, but again,
and it would earn them some enemies. It really would.
But again, it at least would be an actual statement, because that's the problem here. Steam is trying to be the politician that says nothing. That is not working.
It's not. All right, so moving on, because I think we've hit the nail on the head so many times that it's about to go dizzy. And really, just because I have no problem going into this statement even further, because what comes next, I really don't want to get into. So this story literally developed as we were doing the podcast last week. So much so that we did actually have people in our live chat mentioning it. And so we have yet another wonderful claim in sexual harassment that has seemed to have spawned from the whole Weinstein case. And this time it's actually a bit of a big one. So Anthony Rapp, who I believe is on the cast of Star Trek Discovery, was recently interviewed. I can't remember with which network it was, where he openly admitted that he'd had an inappropriate sexual encounter with Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey's response didn't help his situation at all. I'm basically bringing people up to speed. Kevin Spacey's response didn't help him at all, where he basically went, dude, I totally don't remember that. But if you say that happened, then yeah, that sucks. That was roughly his response, everybody. I'm not going to read his PR response that he gave to people because that's basically what he was saying.
Yeah, and basically, to kind of add on that, because the two key details, Anthony Rapp explained that the encounter happened when he was 14.
When he was 14, yes.
And with Kevin Spacey's response, that was when he decided to officially come out of the closet, thinking that would deflect the issue. One of the tweets I saw in response literally made me laugh, where it's just like, created the impossible. He has created a bad time. He has created a bad time to come out.
No, seriously. How? How does that help the situation? Congratulations, you're gay. He's still 14 years old.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's exactly that's exactly what he was trying to do. He's trying to hide behind, oh yeah, by the way, I'm gay, and hoping that he'd be thrown up on people's shoulders. But
this just makes me want to ask the question: who came up with this namby-pamby idea? Was it the publicist? I think it was Kevin. I think Kevin should probably have consulted his publicist first.
Yeah, but and even when he did, of course, the LGBT community bit back and say, no, you don't get to hide behind the rainbow on this one.
Did they literally say that verbatim?
So, not verbatim. I'm probably mixing and matching a few different responses here.
Well, there was a tweet that did say that. I don't remember the person specifically, but there was a tweet that said, "No, you don't get to hide behind the rainbow."
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, other people could probably have said it, but yeah, it's just one of those things that, first of all, this is how whack job some people in Hollywood are now. Is Kevin Spacey literally looked people in the eye and said, this was a viable response to this situation. And the part that blows my mind on that, I don't like bringing up political people, but we had just barely months ago had the whole Milo Yiannopoulos thing. Did you not watch that, Kevin? Did you not see how that went? Did you think that this was going to go any better or worse?
Well, the other thing is he probably assumed that since he was, quote-unquote, left-leaning, they would probably embrace him with open arms, because a lot of people Milo Yiannopoulos, very radically conservative voice that was kicked off Twitter. And so he thinks, oh, I'm probably okay, because I'm considered good with the left.
He literally had to resign from Breitbart over recent statements he had made. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, and so Kevin Spacey like, oh, I'm Kevin Spacey. I'm an established actor. The left will like me. But this is only the beginning of it. It gets much worse.
Oh, and we don't even have everything. I will probably have to rely on Romney a little bit for this, but because I wasn't able to track down everything. Enough of you guys came out with stories, but a lot of them were consistent, and I have a feeling we're still missing some context in there.
Mm-hmm.
But we just got a reply in the chat. Apparently, Richard Dreyfuss's sons also come out accusing.
Of course, because why not?
Yep. Now, here's the one that was found that caught my attention as well, because one of the key things that happened in the wake of these allegations coming to light was that the Netflix series House of Cards, whom Kevin Spacey is both the star and executive producer, has been canceled. They've literally said, we're going to end it at season 6. There's even rumors that they're going to kill off Kevin Spacey's character. I don't know how they're going to...
But not only that, but they've terminated their relationship with him. So yeah, we have the suspected he's going to get killed off within House of Cards. Season 6 was not supposed to be the ending point. I think they were still in discussions over renewing for season 7. It's officially going to be the end one. And so Kevin Spacey was also attached to a biopic film that was going to be done, and they had finished. Okay, guys, they finished filming. They are going back and taking Kevin Spacey out of it and adding in Christopher Plummer in his role instead.
And the film is supposed to come out in 2 months. And Ridley Scott, the director, is still going to keep to that release date. So they are going back, reshooting a majority of the film, and still expecting to have it ready in 2 months. I'm
just starting to think the South Park had it right years ago when he said, yeah, I'm not going to touch this with a 20-foot pole. Because as soon as this comes out, and the best part is like, again, his answer for this was, I'm Kevin Spacey. It's okay. I'm Kevin Spacey. Has that worked for any celebrity that is, it's okay. I'm Harvey Weinstein. It's okay. I'm Alec Baldwin. Has it ever worked?
No, it hasn't. And it's especially telling considering that there are multiple assistants who worked on House of Cards that have come forward saying that Kevin Spacey sexually harassed a number of them. Granted, the article that reports this, they are all reporting under the promise of anonymity, so that way they don't have any reprisal from the studios. Yes. But even studios have issued statements saying, hey, we've set up anonymous tip lines and stuff like that for these staffers to air these grievances. And so, yeah, this is just the latest in the deluge of allegations that have come out in the wake of the Weinstein scandal, because although I keep saying this, people forget, as a very powerful man in Hollywood, down, it's very much you've cut the head off. The body is now starting to die.
Yes, or in a lot of cases, Harvey Weinstein was in a position of power, and now there's a power vacuum, and people are going into that black hole as fast as they possibly can, because once you have the big guy who isn't able to be turned a blind eye to anymore, now nobody's safe.
Nobody's invincible. Nobody's invincible anymore. That's why, and it's good that all of these allegations are coming out, because the sooner we basically drag all of this out into the sunlight, the sooner we can put a stop to it. And so, yeah, it's very much no one is invincible anymore. And as someone, to kind of get into my thoughts of how I felt about these allegations.
I barely saw this in our chat. So, yeah, we had Richard Dreyfuss' son accuse Kevin Spacey. Richard Dreyfuss is also being accused of sexual harassment.
Yeah, it's only getting worse. And I'll be honest, before these came out, Kevin Spacey used to be one of my favorite actors. I used to have a lot of respect for him. Yeah. But now that this is coming out, well, I feel kind of dirty owning films that have Kevin Spacey. And so it's a case of, I don't know how to feel about him anymore. I kind of don't want to see anything he's in anymore. I might need to purge some of my DVDs now. And get a priest to exorcise my house.
I'm just curious, Call of Duty fans, are you actually going to get rid of that one game that actually had him? I think I can't remember which one it was, but he was in one of them. I want to say it was Infinite War. No, not Infinite Warfare.
Yeah, it was Infinite Warfare, the one that's in space, basically.
It's either that or Advanced Warfare, something like that. But yeah, he was the main featured character in that game. Are you going to get rid of your copy? Because
I would, but then again, I don't play Call of Duty, so
we don't play Call of Duty, so this is not something that we could actually attest to. But there's just so much wrong with this whole situation, and guys, it only gets worse because I'm only bringing these up because I'm not reporting on them next week. I'm not reporting on the additional stories. We're gonna find something good to talk about because we also got the whole Charlie Sheen has been accused by, I believe it was Corey Feldman, of a story that he knew about 13-year-old Corey Haim, which Charlie has come out and officially denied. And then we just barely had, as this podcast was starting, Louis C.K. is now coming out and saying he's had inappropriate relationships with several women.
Yeah, and then we also have Brett Ratner being accused, with Ellen Page most recently taking Brett Ratner to task as well. So it's not so much that we don't want to talk about these issues, it's that they're coming way too quickly. We can't cover it all because it's too much. It's too much too fast.
Romney, I need your pillow. Brett Ratner. I didn't even get that one yet. I need your pillow, Romney. I need it. I need to.
Yeah, Unfortunately, I'm still trying to figure out how to create my my trans matter warp drive. I mean, I tried teleporting a grapefruit, but, well, it's lost somewhere in Alpha Centauri currently, so...
Just get me an Amazon replicator. That'll fix the problem. In fact, the delivery guy will just deliver it right inside my house. So at that point, there really isn't a whole lot to answer on this, is that basically... Because I'm kind of in that same place as you. Like, I actually did have some respect for Kevin Spacey. I haven't seen every single thing that Kevin Spacey is in, but the stuff that I have seen him in, like movies like K-Pax, that's the only one that's coming to mind off the top of my head. I've liked him in. I've liked the stuff that I've seen Kevin Spacey in. But now I want to burn my copies. I can't see him in the same light anymore. I actually was considering, I've been watching a lot of West Wing on Netflix, and there have been a lot of times where House of Cards has been recommended to me. I was this close to actually picking up House of Cards. I'm not picking it up now. I'm definitely not picking it up now. It doesn't matter who else is in it, because as soon as I see Kevin Spacey on the screen, I'm immediately going, oh, look, douchebag.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a nasty climate in Hollywood right now, because people are just basically people are being left to, go up their own proverbial shit creeks right now.
Yep. I mean, there in an op-ed I was reading about the issue, which led to me finding the replacement article about him being replaced with Christopher Plummer. It was on the same site where they were explaining how it was very much praising Ridley Scott for his decision to replace Kevin Spacey, which, in my opinion, is very much more a business decision as much as it is a PR move, because if you try releasing a film starring Kevin Spacey now, you're gonna be dead in the water at the box office. So it's very much
how long did it take Mel Gibson before he got to the point where he's at right now? It took him, what, 5 to 10 years after his whole incident?
Yeah, I was in junior high, and it's not until now, so it took like more than a decade for him to really recover. Yeah. And even then he still hasn't fully recovered, because there's still a lot of actors in Hollywood that refuse to work with him. That's why he's been having to direct his own movies now. And so with this, it's very much, I mean, the op-ed article put it the best. This is the time of the reckoning. That there's no other way to put it. This is the reckoning, and it's gonna make, hopefully, a very positive change in Hollywood and the film industry. At least that's the hope. We'll see next year whether or not any of this actually sticks. But times they are a-changing.
We just got in our live chat, I want to hear a story of an actress accused. No, well, I don't. I really don't. I'm officially done, and it's just simply because we've already had so many, and so many are still more incoming. I'm officially done with it. At this point, I have no problem with Hollywood eating its young. I really don't, because that's what they're doing right now. I don't need to see them doing it.
Yeah. I think it's very much, it's safe to say probably the reason we can't keep covering it is that there's just too much coming out to cover on a weekly basis. We'd have to do this as a daily show in order to keep up with it.
Well, and frankly, unlike Romney's War, we're not getting enjoyment out of this. I mean, we're getting a little bit of enjoyment right now, but there are still stories coming in which are just, guys, I am not reacting this way when I initially read that Kevin Spacey story. My reaction was, damn it, not again. And that's going to be my reaction every single time I see another actor, actress, whatever, coming out and having to deal with all of this crap. So, frankly, I mean, this is why I'm saying at least Romney's War was entertaining. This ain't.
No, it isn't. Especially given, because, again, it's a nasty thing. And I actually have friends who were victims of sexual assault, so it's very much has colored my perspective on a lot of this a little bit. Well, more than a little bit, a lot. And so it's one of those things that you can only react with outrage to so many things before you just want to give up on humanity and just like fly to the moon and just live on the moon.
Something like that. Now, I'd like to point out this entire time, Alex has basically been sitting in this chair like frickin' Thanos, off at the edge of the universe, just going, I'll wait until the smoke clears. So why don't you go and get into your opinion here, man?
Well, not much more can be said. That Spacey's a creep, and it's terrible. I think it's kind of a bummer, again, that other people have to suffer. Like House of Cards has to get canceled just because Spacey's a dumbass.
Because that's the thing. I feel like that's the thing we're not really looking at is like, it's like Scare PewDiePie season 2. Nobody really looked at the fact that there were producers, cameramen, light guys that were all getting fired because of one dude being an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, especially for fans, I've never seen House of Cards myself, but I'm like, it was a pretty popular show, so I gotta imagine there's people who could be pretty disappointed. I feel like you could have just as easily replaced Spacey with another character, and I don't know if it would necessarily work, but I feel like at least warranted one more season to see if a replacement would work. If not, then fine, the show can end. And I also gotta wonder, I went to a quick look because Kevin Spacey's not only an actor, he's also a producer on the side. He doesn't have too much really in the pipeline as a producer right now. The last major thing I can see that he's credited as producer for is Manhunt Unabomber, which is a Discovery drama about the hunt for the Unabomber. I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it's already finished because it did its 8-episode run for one season. I don't know if it has more down the line. I kind of think it would, but
well,
so I kind of wonder
if it's going to have
a physical
release of some kind. It's dead.
I kind of wonder if that's going to be on the axe. He's not in the cast; he's only a producer. But I kind of wonder if that show's going to get axed next.
Well, I think at this point it's fairly safe to say, because I mean, here's the thing. House of Cards, he was an executive producer on. I think he was also a producer on the Netflix movie too, wasn't he? So at that point, anything that pretty much dons his name is radioactive.
Yeah. Well, he was also a star in House of Cards to be fair there. So it's kind of like the replacing him in Ridley Scott's upcoming movie. You just don't want to see his persona now. It's beyond just the name. You want to completely scrub him away. I get that. So, but the fact that
I've literally heard that House of Cards is like held in the same regard as like Sopranos.
Yeah, I know. Like I know. It's pretty popular. It was a pretty popular show. A lot of people liked it, and and again, I do wonder now if this same fate is going to happen to some of his other projects where he's just producing but not necessarily starring in. If those are going to get the axe, or if they'll just quietly get passed along, and someone else will pick them up, and nobody will notice a thing.
Well, the other thing, too, that just barely came to my mind is the other sad part about House of Cards. House of Cards was the first Netflix series. Like, that was the one that started the whole ball rolling, I believe, and that's what got everything else coming after.
Well, for it. Yeah, that's debatable. Well, it wasn't like the first. It was like the first that had like a major like A-list actor involved, because then people would argue that technically shows like Orange is the New Black started the idea of Netflix original series, but House of Cards kind of was a major stepping stone because it got a well-known established household name as the star.
And also that's just unheard of. Like an A-list actor, he's doing nothing but movies. So at that point, the fact that Kevin Spacey was career-wise stepping down to do TV of all things, and not even syndicated TV, like network TV. He was doing online TV roughly. This changes so much, but I mean, we could literally be on this for forever on the ramifications that are going to come from just Kevin Spacey alone, not even mentioning any other actors that come out of the woodwork and say that they had the same problems too. We should also probably kind of wrap this up by saying that a statement has also since been released that Kevin Spacey is going to be seeking some kind of therapy or counseling for this.
Yeah, because that worked so well when Harvey Weinstein said it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people are having issues making that claim too. The other one too that I didn't want to bring up here, but web celebrities are also having the problem as well. In fact, one of my favorite web celebrities on What Culture, he left for a while though, but he just barely revealed that he's been having some sexual issues and is actually going to go off and take a 4-month break to go and get the help that he feels he needs. It's like, Jiminy fracking Christmas, people.
Yep. Sad thing is, it's definitely bleeding into our industry, our neck of the woods. We already talked about Andy Signore, and it's just a matter of time before others start coming out.
I'd say keep it in your pants, but, well, the internet has proven that can't be done. Or at least it takes a significant amount of willpower that nobody has. Something like that. Moving on, because Kevin Spacey, rest in peace with your career. Because, well, yeah, what's gonna happen. Moving on to our last story of the evening, which is kind of like a 3-tiered one. We've reported on this left and right over time. In fact, it's kind of connected to the whole 21st Century Fox deal because Disney has announced the streaming service. It is going to be happening. We do know that a lot of their major series, movies, all of that stuff that are on other platforms like Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, any of those are actually going to lose those properties, which as a parent of a 2-year-old already hurts me because now I have to go and get that service. I don't even get a choice in the matter. They're all going to be moving over to this streaming service. But this is also going to affect other avenues that I was kind of concerned with, and I want to bring it up. And on top of that, we actually did get some major announcements in regards to that streaming service. So first of all, I'm just going to go into the bad news here, is that it looks like, yes, it will be affecting the Marvel Netflix series. Basically saying that any new series that are done will be done on the Disney streaming platform. So a couple of things that I see from that. One, you aren't going to be able to pick the dark heroes anymore because it can't go dark. It can't, obviously we're talking about Disney here. They can't necessarily do Daredevil or Jessica Jones on that platform. Instead, you're going to have to go for more lighthearted stuff because this is going to be the streaming service of the House of Mouse. So for those who are fans of the most recent, or it isn't released yet, but Punisher's coming soon, you ain't going to see Punisher on that platform. You certainly aren't going to see Daredevil. I think the only one that would probably carry over, and I am making a lot of jumps with it, would probably be Iron Fist. Iron Fist has had some of those moments, but they haven't had enough of them. But more than likely, what's probably going to happen is after those series have done their runs, unfortunately, they're just not going to get renewed. We're not going to see new seasons from them unless some deal gets worked out. So that's the bad news right off the bat. The good news, however, is that the streaming platform will have another Star Wars series. And I'm just bringing this up right now. Details for it are a little sketchy. I was trying to figure out if it was going to be strictly live action or if it was going to be another animated series. The stories that I read...
Yeah, the articles are saying that it's a planned live-action series, which Lucasfilm has been trying to do for years, even before the Disney buyout.
It's been attempted not just by Lucas, by numerous others to try and get something going. I know that the original concept for either Clone Wars or Rebels was originally designed as a live-action deal.
Then there was the rumored Boba Fett series that they wanted to do that would basically focus on the bounty hunters. It was even kind of the premise of things like Empire at War it was meant to be like, oh, well, let's focus on the underworld, the criminal element in the Star Wars universe. I mean, we kind of got a dry run of that with Shadows of the Empire back in the 90s, but they've been trying this for a while now.
They've been trying it for a while, but it looks like, the thing that you needed was a dedicated platform that wanted to do it. And so, yes, the Disney streaming platform will be launching a Star Wars live-action series by the end of 2019. Details are a little sketchy again. We don't know necessarily what they're going to try and do with it. But if this is any indication, this next part of the story is any indication, maybe we're looking at awesome things. Because Rian Johnson has also received yet another job from Disney, especially in the Star Wars division. So not only will he be the, let's see, I need to get the exact stuff. So if you don't know who Rian Johnson is, he is the current director or the director for The Last Jedi. So that's getting ready to launch next month. And I guess since, you and me, Romney, especially have been bouncing this around, apparently he got along with a number of people, so much so that they, CEO Bob Iger has revealed that the writer-director Rian Johnson will tackle new films, a whole new trilogy based on, and this is the quote, a corner of the galaxy that Star Wars lore has never explored before. So it would be tackling new characters, new races, new stuff. Like, we don't even know if there would be like Jedi in this. We don't even know if there would be an empire or anything like that. This would basically be trying to tackle whole new problems, whole new situations. I'm sure that there would be some connections like Force wielders, but would they be called Jedi? We don't really know.
So, obvious joke here. So basically Star Wars Andromeda?
Yes, roughly. with more Kevin Sorbo. If people got the reference that I just made, you get a cookie.
Well, where should I get the cookie? Because I got it.
Talk to me the next recording. I'll give you a cookie. So yeah. And here's the thing too. Kathleen Kennedy has also made statements in this article. They loved working with the guy. I don't know, Romney, are you surprised by this? They loved working with him.
Not entirely, and it kind of goes to show what I brought up when we were talking about the directors that were fired, is that, well, Disney needs to find the right kind of talent that works with what they want to do with Star Wars, and from the looks of it, Rian Johnson is one of those directors that is the right fit. It's kind of the same case where it's basically what I suggested. Instead of looking for names that people recognize, look for directors that you think, okay, this is a director that we believe can work in this Star Wars formula that we have set out. And, well, it's something that happens in Hollywood pretty frequently. I mean, that's why Steven Spielberg and George Lucas worked together on a number of different projects. That's why George Lucas kept casting Harrison Ford in a lot of things. It's because you find people that you like working with on projects, so naturally you want to do more projects together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a better way to explain it. I mean, you and me kind of had the same apprehensions with Rian Johnson. Like, we didn't know if he would get along, but it seems like he's been the only one that actually has. So at that point, I don't know if this makes me more excited for Last Jedi, just because he was able to get stuff done, and it looks like he had a good enough relationship with Disney that he could get that done. But now you're looking at additional stuff that he's going to be involved with in the future.
Yeah, especially because, again, we've gone on record. Although I liked The Force Awakens, I have problems with J.J. Abrams as a director and his style. Whereas Rian Johnson, I mean, after seeing stuff like Brick and Looper, a filmmaker that I think could do Star Wars and actually elevate it to something beyond just, oh, it's just a retro movie, it would be him, because the guy knows how to compose an image. He knows how to make films visually and audially interesting, especially considering what he did with Looper. So the idea of him doing a new trilogy, I'm pretty excited, because I think he can actually do it.
Dude, these quotes are amazing. He's a creative force, and watching him craft The Last Jedi from start to finish was one of the great joys of my career. This is another quote from Kathleen Kennedy. Rian will do amazing things with a blank canvas of this new trilogy. Holy crap.
That's definitely like a mark. That's got to be like when Kathleen Kennedy, who is known for being pretty strict, is giving you praise. Yeah, like bring hard to work with. When she's praising you, you know you're doing something right.
Exactly. That's the part that just surprises me the most, is like, again, this was the one guy we thought they would have problems with. We didn't think they'd have problems with Phil Lord, Chris Miller, or Gareth Edwards, or not Gareth Edwards. Who was the other one?
Colin Trevorrow.
We didn't think they'd have problems with them. We thought the other way around, and instead, no, it's been the opposite. And I'm just gonna say it. I'm actually kind of excited by that, because when you have, I want different directors. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want different directors. I don't want him just being the guy. I don't want a Zack Snyder this thing, guys. But at the same time, having him as a consistent writer for it is a good idea. I appreciate that idea, because then you have a consistent vision. And at that point, if Disney has no problem with the vision that he's wanting to provide, then that's fine by me. But it already gets me excited for Last Jedi, for this new series, even though he's not really involved in the series. And also for this new trilogy. I've actually wanted this for a while now. Is like, I like the concept of Rogue One, but it's tackling history we already know about. I honestly think if there was a series that needed a clean slate, it probably would be Star Wars by this point, because we've seen the same tired old stories. I would like to see new characters involved with that. Now, I would be remiss in mentioning this. There are some other announcements that came with the streaming service. Bob Iger also spoke of plans to develop TV spinoffs for Monsters, Inc., High School Musical, as well as more shows within the Netflix Marvel within the Marvel universe, not the Netflix one. Well, I mean, obviously that stuff's Disney, and I honestly believe that yes, we will get more Marvel content, but it will be like Iron Man the series. It will be Captain America the series. It's not going to be like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, anything like that.
Yeah, it probably would be like more family friendly-ish fare. So like maybe they may try doing something with like, well, granted, given that they are tied to the Fantastic Four, probably not, but like Power Pack. I mean, honestly, one show I would want to see them tackle, but I'm still wary, would be trying to do a series based on Shang-Chi, the other major martial arts superhero of the Marvel Universe that I kind of like better than Iron Fist, to be honest.
Yeah, it's completely up to them, but at that point, the sky's the limit, especially if they work out that deal with 21st Century Fox to be able to get things like X-Men and Fantastic Four over. You could technically do series on them.
Yeah, that's a whole separate thing that I have a lot of
but I'm just saying, like,
about.
It's Disney's right, like they can do it. Is it necessarily? Here's the thing. I actually don't have a problem with them doing Fantastic Four because, well, if Fox couldn't understand Fantastic Four, then I have no problem at least giving a shot to Disney to see if maybe they can get that aesthetic. Yeah, X-Men, I don't feel confident in whatsoever.
Yeah, because Fantastic Four, they should take it back. It's not so much, if not Fantastic Four, they need to bring Doctor Doom into the MCU. That's the thing I want to see. I want to see Latveria. Yes! I want to see Doctor Doom, not, I'm some weird thing trapped in another dimension, or I'm some weird, like, jilted thing. Like, no, we want to see the grandiose Doctor Doom out to prove he's the smartest man in the entire Marvel universe. That is what I want to see on screen. So, Marvel Cinematic Universe, yeah, I definitely would want to see their take on Doctor Doom and Latveria. Well, X-Men, though...
And on top of that, let's just be honest here. We want to see Doom be an absolute, dick, just to get one over on Reed Richards. We want to see that on camera.
Yeah, again, my favorite quote from Stan Lee, when he explained Doctor Doom's character, Doctor Doom would eat the head of a newborn infant in front of his mother if it would somehow prove to the rest of the world that he was smarter than Reed Richards. That is his character.
And guys, that's accurate. That's 100% accurate here. I mean, we're talking about a character where literally he got judged by the Panther God of Wakanda and got proven, like, he got told that there was a myriad of universes in which universes die and live and be born again and all that. And the one where Earth remains safe, has no problems with it, is the one where Doom rules. This is a god basically saying that, yes, we should hand the reins over to Doom. Because then we'd survive everything.
Yeah, point being,
this is Dr. Doom... Disney needs him!
Yeah, like, Doctor Doom in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that I want to see. Even though I've given up on the MCU, that is something that would probably get me to start seeing the movies again, seeing a good version of Doctor Doom.
Oh, dude, I'd buy you a bowl of popcorn. We'd have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, X-Men is where I have the misgivings, and that's just because even in the comics, they are basically the glaring contradiction of the Marvel Universe at large.
And X-Men, let's just say for the sake of argument, and I promise, guys, we will get to Alex. Alex is just kind of sitting there again like Thanos. He's just like, I will come in when the time is right. So that would be like, how many movies later, Romney? But at that point, like, when thinking of the possibility of an X-Men TV series, I literally look at Marvel's Runaways and groan, because I'm not even interested in that either. Anything that is associated with mutants or Inhumans of any kind within the Marvel Universe, I'm not interested in seeing it, especially when we have to deal with all of this cinematic universe continuity saying that those don't exist. So at that point, if you're going to do an X-Men series, it has to be that it's in an alternate timeline. Has to be. And frankly, I don't want it, because the problem is, and now in retrospect, I see the same problem with the Bryan Singer movies, is that it doesn't matter if you're getting the characters right. The only thing the audience cares about is how many mutants you're actually bringing out. And that creates problems, because then we have lack of character development for characters that are as loved as they are.
True.
So at that point, my worry is that if they did a TV series, it wouldn't be necessarily trying to tell good stories with a small number of mutants. It would be, how many cameos can we get into this series?
Yeah, which that is a bit of a shame, but that's kind of one of the reasons why, and I'm one of the odd men out where I actually like X-Men Apocalypse, because out of all of the other X-Men movies, that was the first time where I saw an X-Men movie where it was the X-Men as a team and not an episode of the Wolverine show featuring the X-Men. This was the time where I looked at it, it's like, hey, these are the X-Men playing off of each other. That is, you're seeing Cyclops and Nightcrawler. You're seeing them work together as a team instead of, oh, we're going to focus on Logan's background. And granted, I like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I thought Logan was good, but Apocalypse, to me, I've wanted for years. The only other film close to it is First Class, where you see them as a team because the X-Men are a team.
And you see them come together as a team, and it makes sense that they are a team. And I'm actually in the same camp with you. I like the fact that we actually did have teamwork happening within Apocalypse. I'm not saying Apocalypse was the best movie I've ever seen. Obviously, people will go to the best movies of last year and see how low that scored. I don't even think it was on my list. But I agree with you. It was actually awesome to be able to see the X-Men behave as a super team against another super team. Because the other problem that I have with the Singer and the Ratner movie is that, you have the Brotherhood of Mutants who are, by essence, not supposed to be agreeing with each other. And so it made sense for them to kind of not be working together or anything like that. But then you had the Four Horsemen of Apocalypse. They have to be working together. And so I like the fact that we got not only a good super team, but a bad super team. And it made sense for them to be working together to stop the other.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alex, again, you've been sitting there like Thanos for quite a while here. I think it's been 10 movies already. So your thoughts on all of the Disney stuff that's been announced?
Okay, well, the Star Wars series, this has been something that's been pitched and bounced around since the end of Revenge of the Sith. It's like, I'll believe it when I see it. I think Disney could theoretically make it happen, but I gotta see it to believe it at this point, because it's been more than 10 years since since somebody's been trying to make a Star Wars TV series. I'm not too surprised that Disney will pull probably all the Marvel shows and take them with them when they officially end with Netflix, if they haven't already. I think that's going to be a real bummer for people who really like Daredevil and probably the more grittier Marvel shows. Sorry, guys.
I like me some Daredevil.
Yeah, I guess I probably won't be getting myself too invested into Daredevil after all.
No.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer. So that's about all I can really say. That's about all I can really say on it. It's just the rest is we're gonna wait and see what unfolds. It's kind of sad stuff is gonna be locked behind a Disney paywall. I really don't need a Monsters Inc. series. I didn't need Monsters U, and I don't need a High School Musical series.
Honestly, the time for a High School Musical series was back when Glee was airing, because honestly, looking at High School Musical, I'm just like, it's Glee. The time to do a series was when Glee was on the air, to have something to compete with Glee. Maybe that's why they're waiting until now. It's like, okay, well, now that Glee is done, we can do our own version of Glee, because, well, Glee... I just look at them, just like, it's Glee. A High School Musical TV series is Glee. It already existed.
Pretty much. That's kind of the issue with it, and I'm there with you guys. What about the new trilogy? Where are you standing with that, Alex?
This is the one thing I couldn't quite really figure out. Is it like essentially like a new main canon trilogy, or is it a trilogy of like more spin-off films? This is the one thing I couldn't quite figure out.
Well, it's a whole new trilogy, and I guess we could call it a spin-off because it's not going to involve characters that we know about. It's going to be a whole new corner of the galaxy with new characters, new situations to deal with. So I guess you could technically call it a spin-off. I believe it's happening after episode 9.
Okay, then I'm calling it a part of the main canon, even if it doesn't involve the legacy of the Skywalkers or Solos or whatever. If it's still essentially like the pomp and circumstance and grandiose of the first two and now this new trilogy, then I call it part of the main. So basically, if it's episode 10, 11, and 12, basically. Yeah, so there that has me interested, but it's sort of like that's going to be wait and see what really comes out of it. Oops, here's some development ideas that really come. We're still probably quite a ways off of that. Let's wait for this trilogy to finish first before we get too excited.
I've officially been turned off to the new trilogy, and the reason I have is a friend of mine just barely sent to me, could this finally be the Jar Jar origin story we've all been hoping for and praying for all these years? 9 hours of Jar Jar is what America needs right now. No, it's what the universe needs.
It's what the multiverse needs.
Well, yeah, because Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
It's true.
Get out. I do not need more Jar Jar in my life.
Jar Jar, it's the key to the world. No. The entire universe. No. The entire multiverse. No.
I mean, unless they decide to do the whole route of Jar Jar suddenly is the Sith Lord. I mean, could happen.
No.
Robot Chicken did it.
I refuse to admit that. Yeah. Did you say Simpsons?
To be fair, there was an. He said Robot Chicken did it, but to be fair, there was an interesting theory that someone did float that Jar Jar could have been a Sith Lord if the audience didn't react negatively, because they brought up the whole idea of, when Yoda was introduced, he was introduced as the silly character, but then we learned more about the character and realized what he was, and some people think maybe that was the initial plan with Jar Jar, is that he was meant to be the silly character that suddenly became more important, but, after the backlash of Phantom Menace, they decided to abandon that, probably for the best, all things considered.
The theory got really weird, too, because a lot of people wanted to basically connect the dots and say that Jar Jar was, in fact, Darth Plagueis, so he was the master to Emperor Palpatine, and it just makes you want to cringe. It's like, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't go far as saying, like, Darth Plagueis, but, I mean... And it's an idea I've seen done well. I mean, Princess Knight by Osamu Tezuka did a really good job of it, of a character. It's basically this king that everyone assumes he's an idiot because he acts like an idiot. But then when he's helping the main character, he reveals, I act like an idiot, so that way they don't see me as a threat, so I can keep tabs on them. It's a story idea that can be done and has been done to great effect. It's just, we're really kind of going into, like, speculation here, but...
Not Jar Jar. No, I'm not even going into speculation territory. Not Jar Jar. I don't even need to think about it. No.
Jar Jar is love. Jar Jar is life.
So I guess the alternate thing is
I am pain.
So I guess the alternate thing would be that it could, instead of the trilogy focused on Jar Jar, it could be 3 more holiday specials.
If we got Brad Jones to review them, I don't think I'd be against that.
With twice as much Wookiee growling.
Yeah, 3 times as much Wookiee growling, because you've got to have a Halloween one, you've got to have an Easter one for some reason.
I love that we're going off in this direction. All right. Well, we are almost out of time, everybody, so we probably better wrap things up. But that is the stories that we were able to cover this week. And if you guys have your own opinions that you would like to be able to share with us or discuss with us, the best place to be able to reach us, starting with Alex, how do they get a hold of you to be able to do that, as well as check out your awesome content?
Best place to find me is on YouTube. Shadowblazers 3000 is my channel, and I do anime content and reviews, the occasional Let's Play here and there. And if you always want to be on tabs of when I put up a new video or just see whatever randomly floats into my mind in a particular day, follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort.
All right. And Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on VidMe at its second home at vid.me/StudioGhost. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe. And I'm also at Romney Reviews on Twitter, no apostrophe S, because I couldn't add it because Twitter didn't like it. And for this week's Romney's recommendation, it's a little bit unorthodox, but I'm actually recommending an artist, a musician, to as of late. Her name is Joy Frost. She is a singer-songwriter. Her songs have played on the radio both in the United States and in other parts of the world. She grew up in Utah, but is now currently living in Ireland. If you're a fan of the show The Fosters, which airs on Freeform, you may have also heard some of her music. And it's, let's just say, one of her songs kind of helped me get out of one of my depressive funks without going into too much detail. And so she's currently making a push to get people to support her on Patreon. If you want to check out her YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/joyfrostmusic, listen to some both covers, really well done covers of Taylor Swift songs and a few other artists, as well as some really powerful original songs. That is this week's Romney's recommendation is Joy Frost and her music. Are following me on Twitter, I'll be tweeting out her Patreon page right after we end the broadcast.
All right. And if people want to be able to get a hold of me, first of all, you're on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Drac2326. So if you guys are checking out the podcast, first of all, thank you. But also make sure, if you can, to check out all of the other content that I do provide. I do Let's Play content. I do general geek content. So I just barely put up my vlogs of BlizzCon 2017, which I was actually really worried about one video. And it actually didn't nuclear melt down my channel like I thought it was going to. So I'm happy about that. You guys should check that one out. In particular, the video I'm talking about is my thoughts on WoW Classic, because that got announced at BlizzCon. I also do try videos. People might notice that I just barely put up the Drac tries for Sonic Forces, which then Alex had to come in and be a buzzkill and basically say, well, I'm so optimistic in this video, but now death and pain are all I know as existence. Because that's basically what he did. So, but even better is like, we still have another tries that we've actually done that unfortunately might not make it till next week. Thankfully, the Shadow Blazer has a little bit more of a positive outlook on that one. So you guys can look forward to that and all of the other content that I provide there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is at Drac2326. You can tweet me there. You can also follow my channel on Facebook at DracLP. That's all you need to look for, and you'll be able to get access to it. And everything that I release, when I'm able to actually get it up there on the page. And if you want to follow the podcast directly, which is something we highly encourage you guys to do, because this is basically the moneymaker, so to speak. This is the way that we're able to do other projects and all that stuff. You can support the podcast by going to geekyweek.podomatic.com. That's where the RSS feed is hosted. That's also where there's a link to the iTunes page. So you guys will be able to get you can subscribe there and be able to get your geek news, reviews, and opinions on the go if you want it that way. You can also follow the podcast on social media and under the exact same terms. So you can search on Facebook and Twitter for @GeekyNRO, and you will be able to get access to those pages, where we give up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stuff we might be talking about, the various holiday plans that we might actually have available. And also, another thing that's on my channel, the Let's Play that I'm currently doing with both Alex and Romney of Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. So you guys will be able to get updates on that as well on the Geek News Facebook page and Twitter feed. And let's see. Yeah, that pretty much covers it all. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. That's going to go ahead and do it for us. We appreciate all of the love and support that you guys have shown us, especially in recent weeks. Now that we're up on iTunes, it's been awesome to be able to hear from you guys, especially when we hear you guys coming in from the podcast to check out all of our other content. That's amazing. And yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we will see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions.